beta weekend 1 has obviously come and gone for Call of Duty World War II, but with beta weekend 2 approaching, we ended up getting some different updates for what we could see here, not necessarily in this upcoming weekend, but some things that Sledgehammer pulled from the feedback of the community. And while again, it probably won't necessarily come in this upcoming weekend of the beta, it is something that is going to be adjusted for the full launch of Call of Duty World War II come November. So that said, I wanted to detail very briefly here for you guys because I mentioned it over on Twitter. A lot of people don't necessarily follow me over there, but if you want to, once again, a little shameless plug for that, but I already mentioned this over there a little bit, but I wanted to talk to you guys on a more broader sense and give you guys the full rundown of everything that has been detailed that will be adjusted by the time launch comes. And there's some good stuff in here, I think, in terms of what we can see that balances stuff out more, that gives a little bit more incentive to play a certain way, all that kind of stuff. So with that said, let's jump right into the few changes that will be coming within the next couple of months as we gear up for the full launch of Call of Duty World War II. One of the biggest things that I've heard out of the entire community with this beta weekend was dealing with the score for Domination. Now, Domination is one of those games that is a super heavily populated game mode and is one of those staples that everybody gravitates towards. And with so many different ways to play, and especially whenever you can control and dominate the map, as the name suggests, a lot of people really want to get those streaks. But previously, in this past weekend for Beta Weekend 1, it was really tough to get score streaks. In fact, it almost took a dozen kills to get a UAV. So it was something that, while the score was 50 points per kill, that will be bumped up to the full standard 100 points at the official launch of Call of Duty World War II, which, personally, I didn't play around in too much Domination in the beta. That was something that's really just fell by the wayside for my TDM and War and Hardpoint matches, but for whatever reason, I didn't necessarily play all that much, so I couldn't personally tell you how dry or abundant streaks were in these sorts of modes. I understand that it would be definitely a lot tougher if you had to cut your point values in half, but if you play the objectives and everything like that, of course, that will help. But for those people that love to just slay out, this will be a nice little advantage for them. And of course, bumping this up even more while playing the objective, you can get even more score on top of it. Another big change that will be coming is the TDM score. This is something that personally I came into a lot. We was only 75. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of it, but it will be bumped up to 100 at the full launch of the game. And that's something that I can totally get behind. Additionally, the hit detection and all that kind of stuff will be adjusted where deemed necessary. On top of better audio and more obvious headshot indicators, Molotovs will actually be getting a little bit of a nerf because that's only 300 score for 2 Molotovs, which is pretty easy to get, but that will be bumped down to only 1 per score streak, so not as many Molotovs will be spammed across the map, which is definitely a nice thing. The sprint out time is something that will be adjusted as well, which is a much needed thing, especially for SMGs, because unless you end up running Gunslinger like we mentioned here in one of the videos as of recently, unless you run Gunslinger and start shooting then aim down sight, you're gonna have a massive sprint out penalty, to which if you end up sprinting and having to immediately engage in a gunfight, chances are you'll be at a very big disadvantage whenever you have to completely come to a stop and then aim down sight. For whatever reason, quick draw and everything like that does not work for right now because of that sprint out time, so bringing that sprint out time will allow players to get their gun up and be able to recover from that sprint animation and everything a lot faster. So that's definitely something that is much needed. Incendiary shells will be defaulted as off and potentially nerfed, which I'm kind of hoping that they will be ever so slightly. I don't necessarily need them to be nerfed to hell and back, but it is something where I feel like even with somebody about 10 meters in-game away, I'll get one-shotted and eventually burned to death. So kind of hoping that it does get just a slight nerf to where one shot outside of a certain range doesn't turn into essentially a purifier. Now, the paratroopers also will be buffed a little bit with a little bit of a cost balancing going on there as well. Probably not going to be one of the higher tier streaks anymore, maybe falling down a couple of notches. Additionally, the recon aircraft being too vulnerable to rifle damage will end up being adjusted as well. There will also be a colorblind support option, and other key controller figures on top of Bumper Jumper will be added in. So that said, that's a big list of things that right off the bat in the first initial week of the beta, with once again maybe about like 40% of the active play counts across all platforms having just gotten their hands on it for 1 weekend. That's a pretty awesome start here, I think, in terms of where World War II will be going, and it definitely is a nice sign to me, at least, that Sledgehammer is already picking up on these things that the community is wanting adjusted, that has created some issues, things like that. Now, of course, the community is still going to run into some issues here and there, but for the most part, it's nice to know that Sledgehammer is listening, and these sorts of things, once again, though they probably will not be applicable to the second weekend of the beta for Xbox One and PS4 users, it is something that they will be adjusted by the time launch comes. And that's the beauty of having a beta at this point in time in the year, because it's not pressed to gold. These sorts of things can be made for a physical game and its full launch at the certain point in time. It's not something where it has to heavily rely on an initial launch day title update to be able to make these changes. So this is definitely some nice things to take into consideration, some nice things to note that Sledgehammer has our back on. But that's it, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Love it, hate it, have some more things that they need to change, whatever it is, let me know down in the comment section down below. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing on Call of Duty World War II. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, I practically live there. So if you want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. All that said out of the way, hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. Take care and peace.